Hey, hey, welcome to Horns Up. And yes, we're still living the doomed life, but this time with a new drone or doom project that hails from Namma Bengaluru. It's called Megadrone. And Peter, you're very excited about this one, right?
Yeah, man, I'm really glad to have my good friend Ganesh, aka Jack. And it comes as a bit of a surprise because we know each other for a while now, and it's through Instagram that I found out that he's launching something called Megadrone. So I hit him up saying, "Hey, man, this sounds pretty neat. I think we should get you on the podcast." And
Yeah.
I'm glad he agreed to come on. So welcome to Horns Up, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. 8 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday.
Yep, we're recording this at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, we're good metal boys. But yeah, man, I mean, you've been around for a while with, Cryptos and also more recently Baversi, both
Yeah.
that are kind of well-known acts here in India.
Yeah.
So how did Megadrone come about? I mean, is this part of your plan of kind of exploring a new sound? How did that all work?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a combination of the two. It's just that I like the more slower kind of music, um, you know. So, and also the fact that, with the whole lockdown, I needed to do something other than work and the home stuff to just sort of, be on the up and up. So, and the other factor is that I just wanted to sort of finish something that I started. So yeah, yeah. It's also, and the other thing is that it's also it's completely controlled by me.
Hmm.
And there aren't other people who sort of uh, jump in and uh, aid in the writing process or the creative process. So having that control to sort of steer the ship where you want to go. Yeah. So
So, is Megadrone an alias or is it the name of your studio project? Where does it fall?
I think it would be the latter because it would be a solo project, and yeah, it's essentially like a lot of things that I can't do with the other bands that I'm with, and yeah, so that's basically it.
And now the first transmission is ready. It's called Transmissions from the Jovian Antennae.
Yeah.
Where does that title stem from? Did you know you were going to name the song this?
I sort of had so when I started writing it, it was essentially like a sort of a it was like fuck, I'm oh, can I curse?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I've heard the pod. Yeah. So there were multiple things, like, there was the aspect of, I was, because of the lockdown, suddenly I had 4 hours at hand that where I was like,
Which would otherwise go in Bangalore's famous traffic.
absolutely, yeah. And so I was sort of, but that was also sort of spiraling down for me personally. Like, I didn't, there were a lot of things that were being reflected upon, and things like that. So I don't know, man. Like, I just had to, like, sort of, and I just plugged in the guitar one day and I just started playing, some Sabbath riffs and some, and I'm playing the guitar after like maybe like 22, 23 years, because otherwise I just play the bass at home.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very Neanderthal sort of an approach to playing the guitar with Megadrone, and it's more about capturing the way I feel about certain kinds of music when I listen to it. So it's more about an emotion rather than prowess, or how fast or slow I can play, or how many, my chops and things like that. So yeah, it came. I don't know why it came, or where it came from, but I guess it's always been in the subconscious, and I've always wanted to do something with the very heavy doom, heavy drone kind of a thing. So those 4 hours a day that I had extra sort of, helped me convert. ideas into actual music.
All right. So, I mean, what was your intention? You talked about, these feelings and things that you had. I mean, what was your intention or objective with this song? Essentially, what would you like the listener to take away after listening to it?
Oh, I don't know. There was no intention. It was essentially like, just chatting with a few friends and saying, oh, why don't you guys read some, the COVID-19 manual? I'll slow it down and I'll put it on a riff, and we, just make something fun type thing. And
Oh my God.
yeah, and but then I after recording it, I sort of put the arrangement together and I shared it with a few people, like 2 or 3 guys, and the feedback was good. They said that, oh, this is something you should just put it out instead of doing this comic fun thing or whatever. And yeah, so that's how it sort of, and that's also gave me sort of a confidence boost to sort of say, yeah, fuck it, let me just, and if I'm going to do it, let me do it right. Let me do it the proper way. Yeah.
Okay, I have to mention here that the press release for the song is quite a read. There's a line here, and I quote, "A 55-minute plunge into the subconscious void that mimics the onset, paranoia, revelation, and calm of a truly immersive psychedelic experience." End quote. Tell us more about that experience.
So when I was writing it, when you're locked down, you keep talking to folks about, oh fuck, man, we shouldn't have canceled the plan to drop that blot, or shouldn't have canceled that plan to fucking go to Kodai and do some shroom. and so when I was writing it, a lot of visions and a lot of recalls happened of past hallucinogenic experiences, and the song sort of started flowing that way. So when you, and people who have done either shrooms or acid will know that, when you pop it, there's this giggly mood that you go through, and then which is the onset, and then you sort of get into the trip, and then the paranoia or the negative subconscious sort of wakes up, and then you overcome that, and then you sort of go back to the trip, and then there is this nice come down, that sort of leaves you feeling very good. And so it just sort of started flowing that way. And even when I was writing, I sort of had this idea of and to sort of go back to that question about why the title, is that it's essentially based on one of the visuals I had during one of my trips. Is that I saw this for some reason, it just focused on the Jupiter cluster. It has about 70 odd moons, and I saw this sort of a transmission tower on one of those moons, sort of like basically calling out or beckoning to me type of a thing. And that's why it's transmissions from the Jovian Antennae. And so it is completely psychedelic, and which is why there are 2 reasons why this is not music for everybody, because one is it's extremely slow, so and there are not a lot of doom or drone listeners in this part of the world, at least. And secondly, it's got the whole heavy psychedelia thing going on with it, and again that does not have a lot of listenership as well. And so this is essentially marrying 2 not very listened to genres and sort of putting it out.
Yeah.
Now you've said all that, and I think it made me understand the song better. And I kid you not, the very next question that I had was basically a want to understand the song, because I thought there were these 3 distinct sections to the song. The beginning, then there's the pause where we can only hear the ambient texture that begins the second section, and finally the third section where the high-pitched distortion takes over as such. And when that section begins, It feels very haunting and made me feel really uneasy. By the time I got used to it, I realized it was the lead narrator of sorts for that section, and then everything just calms down again. Was that the intention?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, I had written about, like, I think 7 or 8 riffs for this, and I just chopped it all down to like 2 of them, and 3 of them. And yeah, you're right. And also the thing is, there's this intentional slash unintentional attempt to create a dialogue between the consciousness and the human self. Sorry to get philosophical, but that's what, like, for example, if you notice, the keyboards speak a lot more in the first half, which is supposed to be outwardly or netherworldly, whereas the guitars are a little bit more constrained, which is the human self. And so that's how I wrote it, in the sense that there has to be. So when you're tripping, you're talking to nature, and there are times when nature sort of overwhelms you, and you sort of go into the paranoia aspect of things, and then you start countering that paranoia by sort of engaging a lot more, which is why there are a lot more guitar bits that come in the second half of the section of the song, and probably after like 20 or 30 minutes. So yeah, and towards the end of the song, you're in complete harmony with both with the self as well as the environment, and which is why you have an equal balance of the guitars as well as the keyboard sections as well. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
It's all right. It made all the sense that you wanted it to make. What's your take on repetition with respect to drone and doom? I mean, while writing a song, how do you know when to move from one section or riff to another?
So originally, I think the song was about 70 odd minutes. And see, for me, the thing is that, since I was a kid, it was all about listening to full tracks or full albums. So there was never like this moment where, and also because the fact that when I was growing up, you had tapes. And, so
of course.
you never really went to the radio single or the hit or whatever. So you always listen to entirety, and it's pretty much the same. Like while when I started off, it was close to about 80 minutes. And then when I got into the studio, I sort of started giving it a bit of a haircut and sort of trimmed it all down, took away riffs that I felt that did not really add more. So and the way I look at it, if something sounds good, I like to hear it more often. So repetition for me is it's cool, as long as it makes sense. It's cool. Yeah.
There was this whole thing going on Twitter and all recently, right? I have a joke on things. So it was very spontaneous for me. And I mean, I was taking up this at like most subgenres of metal. And I just wrote, I have a joke on doom metal. But I'm waiting for like the vocals to kick in, because with doom metal acts, right, or stuff, you always taking away from that joke. So there are no vocals on this track. Was that like a very conscious thing that you wanted the focus to be on the music this time?
There's like this one vocal sample at the beginning, but there's no vocals as such.
That vocal sample is actually of one of my favorite films of all time, called Event Horizon. And the vocal sample basically says, where we are going, you won't need eyes to see. And I think that's how that's what, if you talk to fellow mushroom heads or acid heads, that's what it is. It's all about what your mind wants to see, and not what the society wants you to look at, fancy buildings and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's all about so not having vocals is I just didn't there wasn't any need for it, I guess. And also I know the whole thing about vocals is that then you got to start thinking of a proper lyric, and I just thought it didn't need that intervention.
One thing, and I mean, Animesh put it quite well when he was talking about his experience with the songs, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's really one of those kind of pieces of music where you get immersed.
Yeah.
And, I thought it could have been heavier and doomier so that
Yeah.
it kind of envelopes you,
Yeah.
like how Devin Townsend used like the wall of sound approach, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it could have been produced this better? Or like, what would you kind of...
You had definitely. I mean, so I've already started writing for the second transmission, and already in terms of production, I have ideas as to how I want to do it this time. Yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, I would have liked to sort of plan the production a lot better. Also, the thing is that when our glorious leader decided to unlock. Um, um, we did not know how long this unlock was going to last. So I had very limited time with the studio to sort of get in there and sort of get it done. So over 2 weekends, the entire thing was recorded, including Shrikant's bits. So yeah, so but yeah, definitely, Peter. The thing is that the next one I already have ideas as to how we would like to produce it, and to make it sound a lot more bigger, and lot more saturation and decay to sort of pop out, and more of a using more amps, the traditional setup with a couple of heads, couple of cabs, bigger room, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, that plan is underway already. Yeah.
I'm glad you spoke about that because I'd like to talk to you a bit about production. Having played in bands like Cryptos and Beversi, because of Megadrone, are you looking for newer kinds of guitars, amps, or pedals to nail that sound? I guess the question really is, have you found the sound that you're looking for, or what do you think the sound needs to be?
See, that sort of goes back into the kind of influences I have when it comes to Megadrone, right? So the influences for me are basically a framework. They are not. They will not influence the end product as such, right? So for me, if you look at it, and even just before the lockdown as well, and Peter knows this as well, that the older I get, the more older my music choices get as well.
Yeah.
Happens to all of us, I think.
Yeah. So the thing is, probably since November 19, I've been listening to a lot more of the 70s stuff, especially a lot of the Canterbury prog from the 70s, like Genesis and stuff, and also completely into. I sort of started rediscovering a lot of old doom. Bands like Earth, who are a huge influence on me when it comes to just sort of the atmosphere that they sort of set up. And also newer bands like I don't know, like UFO Mammoth or Monolord, or so these guys.
Nice name drops. I'm a huge Monolord fan.
Oh yeah, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I like the Jaeger's solo.
We had him on the pod recently.
Yeah, I've heard that. So yeah, solitary plan, right? Yeah. So yeah. So but for this, I was listening to, and the thing is that, like I said, with the lockdown, I also had time to sort of sit back and listen to music, because of the lockdown, work starts much later than it usually does. So at nights, I was just listening to a lot of soundtracks, from the 60s, and even some of the newer stuff. And but all of these are essentially sonic influences. They don't really influence the band. So to answer your question, the next outing, I know that there are 3 or 4 riffs that require that wall of sound kind of a treatment, but then there are others that will have to be treated slightly differently. And also, I was playing the riffs again last night just to sort of get it into muscle memory, and I sort of sent a text to my the co-producer, and asked him if he knows someone who plays a saxophone, because there are bits where I think a horn section would sort of add more effect, add more emotion than the guitars um, or synthesizers or whatever. But yeah, I'm definitely production and adding other instruments, definitely. But I'm not a fan of the congo or bongo or whatever those things are called. I'm not a fan of cowbells. So yeah, looking to see if I can work with some. And I'm a huge bebop fan, right? Like from everybody from like like Sonny Rollins to Miles and Charles Mingus' stuff as well, more traditional jazz. But um, I'm a huge fan of that stuff, and the kind of atmosphere that stuff creates is a huge fuck you to a lot of the music that was around then, and also a lot of music that is around today. Like so, it's so influences production. They sort of work at extreme poles. But for me, what's most important is the soundscape that it creates, and the emotion that it creates from the soundscape. So that's a lot more important than how many amps I use, or how many layers of synths there are, and etc.
So, you mentioned developing muscle memory.
Yeah.
Is this part of a plan of taking Megadrone live, or do you still want to keep it as a studio project?
I don't like. Someone asked me this, but in the near future, the way things are, I don't really want to play live till a vaccine is around. But to answer your question, even if I have to take it live, it cannot be done in this whole drums, guitar, bass kind of a structure. Yeah. So even with the next one, and with the previous and with the current release as well, like I would love to work with like like-minded musicians, but I know that they are hard to find in India, maybe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't want to work with that whole you need the traditional setup, you need guitars, drums, and bass, but I want. Yeah, man. So to answer your question, I don't know. There's a lot of factors. There's a way in which I'd like to do it, and I'll have to think about it. Maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line, maybe. And also the thing is that if I want to do this live, it can't be at a bar or anything like that, right? It has to be at a friendly place where and ideally this music is better experienced when you have dropped half a blot, or have chopped down like 6 mushrooms or whatever, just to sort of experience it better, because unlike it's not booze music.
True.
Yeah, so I'd like to do it like in a very nice acoustically driven place, like a nice old theater with with just like maybe 20 people, 25 people, that sort of a thing, where people are socially distancing, people are tripping safely, and music is just a sort of an enabler, but it's not the end solution. So yeah, so that's how I'd like to do it, and I don't see that happening in India for the longest time.
It's great that you mentioned that, because like earlier this week I was at an installation of sorts. So a friend of the podcast, Abhi Mir, he did this whole thing called Isoxia, where basically it was him playing 4 hours every day for 6 days, and it just wrapped up yesterday.
Right.
And it was crazy because he was making so the entire thing was filmed live. And it's now 24 hours of music that he's been playing. And so that was his first time out of isolation. And he was the first person I met from like my friends and family in 5 months. And when I met him, so thing is, he kept getting only like one person an hour or so. And so the day that I went, I was the only person there, and he said I was the second person he's met since he's got out.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of surreal. And yeah, so that's when I was listening to your music, right, with
Yeah.
Megadrone. I was like, this is the kind of thing, because it's at this old gallery in
Yeah.
South Bombay, in
Yeah.
like a mezzanine area. So
Right.
it's just a complete different experience. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Like the thing is that this music, it goes, yeah, it is like an installation, because you invest time listening to it. It's
yeah,
not something that you sort of fast forward to the next song or whatever, right? Like you put it on, and it's an investment for 55 minutes or 53 odd minutes, and then you sort of uh, and I'm not the intention of the music is not to sort of influence your trip or influence your mind, or say distinguish between right and wrong or anything like that. Um, it's basically just there to just get you thinking, internalize maybe, uh, but that's about it. There is no agenda with the music. It is what music, in my opinion, should be. It should just be. It should make you feel good. It should if you're feeling shitty, it should help you get knocked out of that you know mind space. And that's what I set out to do, and I hope it works.
I think it will, because yeah, the few times I've heard it, the first time I came into it extremely neutrally, but the second time it calmed me down and actually gave me space to resolve a few issues.
Exactly. Like for some people, it could be a mathematic equation they are working on. For some, it could just be like getting the kitchen work done.
yeah.
It's just see, the thing is, today we are so bombarded with crap, from whether it's on your phone or on your social media platforms and whatever. It's just crap. There is nothing that's really sort of uh, giving you time to sort of like sit back and say, hey. And that's what I was talking about, is that when I grew up listening to music, when I put in a tape for those 60 minutes, I was just gone. The world was dead to me, and I was there in that fucking studio with Candlemas, banging out Ancient Dreams, or like, or Michael Jackson, or whatever the fuck, right? I was listening to, and that's the thing. Like, for people today are, they put on their phones, they have a fucking playlist, and it just sort of jumps from one to the other, and music has become pretty much like it's a commodity. But for me, it can never be, because whatever I am today is because of what I've grown up to, and I sort of look at it very differently than most. Like I think a lot of us sort of look at it very differently than most people when it comes to music.
Now, because we were talking about installations, I think there's a 55-minute film that accompanies this song. First question, where can people watch it?
It'll be out on the 17th of August on YouTube. And see, the thing is that so there's something called ego death, right? When you're tripping, and I sort of had this amazing opportunity to sort of have a very, very nice mushroom experience in the Himalayas once, and it really sort of kills the man-made opinions and prejudices that you have, and sort of brings you down to earth. And so what I did was, I engaged with this very young film maker from Pune called Anusha, and I worked with her. I gave her a bunch of footage of a lot of space stuff, and she sort of put that together with the music. And like I said, this is the first attempt. The next one that I'm working on actually has, it's going to be a bit more immersive as well. Yeah. So this, to answer your question, this film for this particular release will be out on August 17th, and you can, all the links will be updated on my on the Megadrone Instagram page, so you guys can sort of check it out from.
Okay, cool. So the next question then is it a norm or rule that Megadrone needs to have videos or other experiences to accompany all future songs?
Yes.
Why is that necessary?
Because the music needs a visual experience, and the visual experience is also, it is a part of the production process as much as the music is, the writing process as much as the music is. And music sort of can help a person imagine things. And I just want to take that to the next level by introducing visuals as well, that would sort of give the person who's consuming my music my take on what I am imagining and what I am seeing, and then it is left up to interpretation. So it will not influence you in any way, but it's just an aid. It's a visual aid to the music.
Right. I mean, you've brought up quite a few times in our conversation so far the next transmission of sorts.
Yep.
So, what's the plan for that, roughly, if you may say? And is there a plan to release it sooner this year sometime?
Yeah. So I want to release it in Jan 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So October is when I get back into the studio and sort of start hacking away at the ideas that I have, and by Jan 2021 it should be ready. By Jan 2021 we'll come up with a date for release.
And is that the plan? Because social media, or at least what I've been noticing on social media, is that Beversi are back in the studio.
Yeah.
So how are things going on that front? And
Beversi is, it's always fun because one is I have a very different role to play over there, and though Srikanth is the primary writer, I also work on a bit of the arrangement aspect of things, because sometimes I want a verse section to be longer, shorter, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, that process has started, and I've finished lyrics for 2 out of the 6 songs. And so before August, I think end of August is when I go do the vocal demos for those 2 songs, or rather record the vocals for those 2 songs, and then we'll see what happens of that.
Wow, so it's going to be a busy year for you. You've got Megadrone.
Yeah. The thing is that, and also Kryptos, Nolan has been sharing some random riffs on WhatsApp and things like that. So I know that a lot of the writing is started there as well. So 2021 is actually going to be a busy year for us. Yeah,
I'm sure Animesh is quite kicked about that.
Glad to know that Kryptos is writing new music. So we've spoken to you at length about this project. Any social media you want to plug? And of course, where can people find Megadrone? Use the space.
So on social, you can follow us on Megadrone Official. That's MEGADRONEOFFICIAL. That's the handle for Instagram. We are there on Facebook, but not very active because Facebook sucks. It's the same company, but still we're using Instagram for now. And yeah, all the stuff will be updated there, whether it's real time updates or future announcements and things like that. Yeah, so that's the place to sort of check us out. And August 17th, come Monday, the 17th of August, the first transmission will be up on your streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, blah blah blah. And also check out our YouTube page. We have 55 minutes of spacey content to sort of help you trip better.
Awesome.
That should be your one-line elevator pitch.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
On that note, Ganesh, thank you for your time. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Early on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And for all you out there, we are online at hornsuppod.com. As always, I'm on Twitter at AsmoAnnie.
Yeah, and I'm at Trend Crusher.
This has been Horns Up.
Horns up, guys.